Hey everyone, I'm Mark, and today we're going to look at a bunch of different ways to go about deciding where to fly next in Flight Sim 2024. I used to often find myself spending a lot of time trying to find a route that suited the mood that I was in, so I've collected pretty much every website and tool that I've ever used for this in the past, and I'm going to share them all with you so that you can see which ones you like the best. Most of these are tools that you'll use ahead of time rather than in-game add-ons to help you decide, which is a good thing actually, because it means that console simmers can use these just as well as PC simmers. We're going to start off by looking at a few things you can do very easily yourself actually, and to be honest, this is the way I pick where to fly more than any other solution that I've looked at. I did a video a while back on how to put together a world tour, but that has a really big scope and it can feel like a bit of a slog at times. So what I do actually alongside of that is a bunch of mini tours of parts of the world I'm interested in. For example, right now I've got one tour going in the southeast coast of Australia in the Bonanza, another around the UK in the RJ, and I just completed another one in the Caribbean with the Citation 10. That way, I've always got a few options available to me to pick from in terms of flight duration and aircraft, so I can pick a flight that'll fit the amount of time I actually have, which just sadly never seems like it's enough. Alongside of that, I keep a list of interesting airports that I come across, either watching other content creators or from real-world aviation content or even on Reddit. That makes it easy to pick a starting point for a new tour, which can be as short as 2 or 3 legs maybe, but it can also be up to 10 or 20. It's really up to you. But because you have that list of ideas of areas you want to explore, it's a lot easier to get started. There's also a Google Maps layer that someone created with all of the points of interest in the sim, including the handcrafted airports from all of the world updates, which I refer back to a bunch when I'm lining stuff up for a tour. I'll usually try to incorporate as many of the handcrafted airports as I can because they add a fair bit of detail and immersion, but I'll also see if there's other stuff in the area that's worth doing a flyover to check it out as well. You also don't have to do this based on areas of the world that you're interested to fly in. You could also repro something like charter flights for a sports team, flying the F1 circus around. The options are really endless. A different option I've seen a lot of people mention lately is to use AI to come up with a flight plan, but it can definitely be hit or miss as to whether its recommendations are any good. If you do decide to give it a go with the AI routes, there are a few prompts I've seen people use that they say have gotten them good results, so I'll make sure to link to those in the description for you. But just remember though, AI makes a lot of mistakes, so double check that everything it says actually exists before you go flying. A lot of simmers also like flying into extreme weather conditions just for the challenge of it all, and there are a few websites that can help you find current live weather events around the world. I find the easiest one to use is badweather.com. It lets you filter by a bunch of different categories, and what's really neat about it is that once you click on one of those categories, it actually shows you the METAR of the closest airport for all of them that match that criteria. That gives you a great spot to use as your destination, and then from there you just need to figure out what plane you want to take and where you want to head off from, so you can get going pretty fast this way. Alright, next up we're going to look at a bunch of external tools that can help you decide where to fly, whether you're more a fan of general aviation or airliners for that matter. One tool that's actually right in your face that is sometimes easy to forget about is career mode. It's great at finding fun and interesting strips to fly into, be it in the backcountry or like a local or municipal field. The spots it picks are typically off the beaten path, but that's the whole point. It's going to be way more interesting than just flying into some generic big airport. And the other thing is you don't have to fly it in career mode either. What I'll sometimes do is use career mode to find the route that I want, but then I'll switch into free flight because there are a lot less consequences if I screw up there on a really difficult approach, but it's going to be just as fun. The next tool is a website called NextSimFlight, which starts to lean more towards airliner flying, but there's a bit of general aviation in there too. It doesn't have a ton of route suggestions for smaller GA planes like a Cessna or Bonanza, but that next step up with turboprops and business jets, that's where it can really help you out. My favorite way to search on here is to go on the left into the search real life schedules section. And from here, you can just pick the airplane type that you're looking for and go from there. There won't always be a ton of results, but there should be enough to give you some ideas of real world routes for the plane, which is always fun because it can add an element of role play to your flying. The next one, which can be useful for both general aviation and airliners, is Volanta, which is primarily for tracking your own flights, but you can also search in there to see what other people are flying. If you head into the filters on the right, you're going to have the option to filter by aircraft and airport, so you can get down to a fairly granular level. The only real limitation is that it's looking at currently active flights. That can still be useful to you though. If you find a user that likes a plane that you do as well, you can go into their profile and filter again on the plane that you're interested in to see just those flights, so it can definitely help give you some ideas. Then there's WorldTour.Flights, which is a community-driven tool where anyone can upload a flight plan for you to download and fly it. You'll find a lot of GA options here if that's what you're looking for. The only problem is there are no filters by airplane type or category, which would make it a lot more useful, so you have to do a bit more work of filtering the content yourself. I find you can get a lot of offbeat ideas from here, and even if you don't want to go as far as using the flight plan that they've uploaded, it can definitely point you in the right direction of cool places to check out. This is actually where I get a lot of inspiration for the tours that I put together for myself, just because you can visually see what the area looks like here without even being in Flight Sim. Next up is Where to Fly, which also has filters for planes as small as the Bonanza all the way through to the heavies, although I find it tends to have better results for commercial jets. There's a lot of filters on this one, so that can help you get more relevant results, but from what I can tell, it doesn't seem to be using a pre-existing flight schedules database. It seems to just give you the options based on the preferences that you picked. Sometimes it'll even give you some options that don't make a lot of sense. Like here, I picked a GA category of airplane and it's suggesting to fly into Heathrow, which I guess is technically possible, but it just doesn't seem very likely. When it comes to specifically reproducing real-world airliner routes, I find the best option is actually FlightAware because it allows you to do a lot more with a free account than FlightRadar 2.4 does. Most of the time, I tend to look flights up by aircraft type because that's the first decision I make when I'm starting a flight sim session, but you'll really have all of the options to choose from here. Small GA planes also show up on FlightAware, like a C-172, but they frequently won't have a flight plan filed because they're doing a VFR flight, so you won't be able to actually see where they're going, so it's not really useful in that sense. But anything from a Bonanza and upwards, so long as they've filed an IFR flight plan, it will show up here and you'll be able to find all sorts of options with that. The real strength is obviously for airliner flying though, since you can see all of the real world schedules, including the routes that they use, right down to the ship number, so you can see where a specific livery was used if that's something that interests you. If you're looking for more of a community-centric way of picking where to fly, there's also a ton of virtual airlines out there that you can join. The advantage to a VA is that you have routes and trips there waiting for you to fly them, and there's a virtual airline for almost anything that you might be into, from GA to classic jet flying and everything else in between. I've been part of a VA in the past, but I found for me personally, it didn't quite motivate me to go flying as much as I quite thought it would. However, that's obviously going to vary from person to person. That was just my personal experience, but it's just something to keep in mind. There are also a bunch of Payware add-ons that can help you pick where to fly, like Jet Card and A Pilot's Life. And where they fit in for me is when you want to get flying quickly and you don't want to spend too much time planning. A lot of these tools will provide you with a full operational flight plan, so if either you're limited on time or you just don't like doing planning, these can be a great way to get in the air quicker. I've used a few of these over the years, and personally the only ones that really interest me are the ones that are one-time purchases. It's not something that I find having a subscription for is really going to be worth it. They all tend to turn into a bit of a grind rather quickly before you can do some of the more fun stuff like running your own company and Jet Card, but that's just the reality of these types of add-ons. They're great at discovering new places to fly though, and they really help to put the emphasis on the role-playing aspect, so I tend to keep them in my rotation for that reason. Most of these are going to be PC only though, and as far as I know, the only console career add-on is the built-in career mode in Flight Sim. I'll have all of the links for all the more popular career add-ons and everything else we spoke about too in the description below, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this one.